State Senator Ruth Johnson, Republican from Holly. Nobody ever told you there'd be days like this, did they?
That what?
There'd be days like this.
There have been some very unusual days, you're right. Especially after being Secretary of State and being a clerk of Oakland County. I've never seen any week quite like this. You're right, Michael.
Well, let me ask you this. I saw one of the Detroit papers had a headline, "The Big Lie," and it had pictures of Republicans who voted to, I don't know what the right phrase is, to hold up on certifying the Electoral College vote. We'll put it that way, to put it nicely. Was it really a big lie that there was some sort of election fraud taking place? Is that a total lie?
I can only speak about Michigan.
Yeah.
And while there was some things that happened that absolutely shouldn't have, it was nowhere near the 150,000 votes that would change the election. So my job as chair of elections is to go through and find out in what areas that weren't done properly or have some kind of a problem. Maybe because of COVID, things changed, but you don't want to lose integrity. So we'll go through and see if we can find how we can make sure that we have absolute integrity in our elections. And that's a continuous job. It's not like you just get done and that's it. So we'll be working on that all year in elections.
When the next election comes around, do you think the Secretary of State will once again send out invitations to vote remotely, vote by mail, that kind of thing? Or was that a one-off?
Well, I don't really know. She doesn't communicate well with our committee. It's hard to even get her in. On the ones that she did send out, and by the way, the local clerks have always taken care of that, and there have been a couple court decisions that says you cannot send them out to people that don't request them, and that's because our qualified voter file is very flawed. On it are the names of people that haven't been purged because we don't communicate with half the country to even know. And the ones that do, she just didn't bother to clean the list when they said somebody's moved to, say, Florida and is a voter there. So there's lots of concerns that I have about making sure that we have secure and fair elections and that they're fair for everyone. Because if you have someone vote that's not a registered or qualified voter here in Michigan, you're disenfranchising someone else's vote. So I think that's extremely important to find out why she didn't purge the file as usual. Then you're supposed to verify those voters if they've moved. They must stay on a subset of the voter rolls. And so she actually sent over 800,000 invitations to vote to people that are simply not qualified in Michigan, mostly because they moved, some dead. We had a couple non-citizens. People got a hold of us, an underage person. So that's why that file was never supposed to be used, because we don't have a national system to keep it cleaned up. And when there was a national system volunteer, she didn't clean off the names that were reported that they'd moved to another state.
So it's fair to say there were some votes that were illegal or that were inappropriate. Is that true?
It's hard to know for sure, but anytime you leave gaping holes open for people to misuse the system, I did have reports from clerks that, in fact, people did try to vote, and they said they had gotten an invitation to vote, an absentee ballot request, all filled out for them. And so that they did try to vote. And the other thing the Secretary of State did is she gutted out the language to verify that voter if we've been told that they've moved to another state. And she gutted out anything different than if you or I voted. So that's another problem. And I'm not really interested in going backwards. I want to go forward. So we know that is not good. That does not make our elections. Once you leave or even invite people to misuse the system, there are some people that will. Luckily, not a lot, but you just can't leave those kinds of big holes, gaping holes in the system.
Speaking of gaping holes, the governor said Friday she wants to be, quote, crystal clear in saying the state has pushed out every single vaccine the state has received. Is that true? And if so, why does it seem so many people can't get it or haven't gotten it?
Yes, I spent over 2 hours on hold and also have been looking for friend, and it's like water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. You cannot get an appointment. My friend has a 97-year-old father, and she's been calling numerous times every day. And now the governor has said anyone over 65 is eligible starting today, but eligibility needs to meet availability. And I saw on a video yesterday Executive Mark Hackle from Macomb standing next to an empty freezer saying the governor overpromised because they don't have any vaccine. And the fact is the state appropriated, the legislature, $56 million to the governor to help with the vaccine distribution, yet we're one of the worst states in the country for distributing the doses so far.
Well, when we have 725,000 vaccines distributed and only 195,000 administered, and the governor says that doesn't tell the whole story, what is the story?
The story is we need to get creative. We need to make it a number one priority right now for Michigan, and we need to get the job done. I think one of the problems might be because the governor and the state health department are responsible for overseeing the distribution. We have Dr. Gordon right now that is working also on President Biden's transition team, and meanwhile, less than 2% of the Michigan residents have been vaccinated, and most of the doses are still sitting on shelves, and our local health department freezers are empty.
He's become a pretty powerful figure, hasn't he?
Well, with COVID, the top person for Department of Health and Human Services is extraordinarily important. It's our health. For some people, it's their life, and for a lot of people, it's their livelihoods. It is the number one most important thing. This is a crisis that's unfolding even further. When we know we have vaccine, they did get the vaccines done so quickly. We have two, Moderna and Pfizer, but they do require a second dose. And getting things organized, Michigan shouldn't be at the bottom of the heap. We were one of the states that was most impacted early on.
You're too young to get it, aren't you?
I've never been vaccinated for anything but tetanus since I've been a kid. But I will get vaccinated when it's my turn for this. I just think you have to look at the risk versus what it might help, and because all of us travel from all over the state to go on the Senate floor, I think the risk is higher. And like most people, I just had a birthday yesterday, and like most of us that are over, thank you, most of us, over half of us that are over 60 have underlying, and so I think it's really, really important for people that are 65. And then I have this good friend that her dad's 97.
Yeah, and he can't get it. We got to get that going, don't we? Senator Ruth Johnson, thank you so much. Happy birthday.